and welcome to another episode of DIOTALK. I'm Dear Let's Talk. My guest of the evening is an actress. She plays Dr. Margaret Johnson in the new film of produced by Junito Studios, Bonds of Grief. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Deborah Tighe. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor. It's an honor. I most definitely loved your role in the Bonds of Grief. The doctor friend, family friend relationship you have.
Yes, it was
What
great
how
to play the role.
what how was your experience tackling well, I want to say important role, because with your revelation, that's what everything starts to unfold.
Right. Actually, the role was actually supposed to be a male role, believe it or not.
Oh,
And
really?
Zay had contacted me. He said, "Hey," he says, I wonder if you're interested in this role." I did put in for a different role in the film as one of the grief members that comes to the grief group. And then he said, he has this other role that he thinks would be good for me. What did I think about it? That type of thing. And that's how it happened. So I play the oncologist.
Wow. I I love how you basically, pulled um this woman to the side,
Mhm.
and went up and beyond. As a doctor, you have you have the HIPAA law and whatever, but like your role was so important where like you got to say, hey, you need to know this.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I actually I'm in the healthcare field. I have been for 30 years.
Oh, nice.
So I educate people every day about, everything you can think of, because a lot of times the doctors don't usually do that. They leave it for the therapist. So I have kind of a little in with being a doctor because of that healthcare role that I play on a daily basis. And it made it a little easier for me to talk to people, to be the doctor with the patient, because I deal with patients all day long. And I think in my field, the empathy that you have to have and the compassion, understanding, you and then you're also that role where you have to teach patients things. And I think that fit right into Dr. Margaret Johnson's role and made it a little easier for me on that end. And it was quite a pleasure to play that role.
Wow, amazing. So it wasn't like you wasn't like you didn't have to dive in deep to understand this, or you use your experience to really bring it to life.
Yes, and it's kind of like putting your passion and your profession in the same place.
Got
So
it.
it was
Got it.
kind of a twofold role for me, and it was such a pleasure. And then dealing with Zay, I mean, he's great, he's awesome, and he's so professional and kind, and he understands, and he has, like you say, that vision of how it's supposed to be. And I think that's so important when you're an actress and you have a director, and it's such a great feeling to know that how he is and who he is makes
Hmm.
you feel so much more calmer on film.
I agree. He when it comes to these dramas, he's a great visionary. Like I don't know, he has it down packed. The visualization, the cinematography, and shout out to Franklin as well, who did an amazing job
Oh
as well.
yes,
What was your first
yes,
thoughts, your
yeah. I
initial
mean,
thoughts when you read the story or the script for the first time? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I thought that no, you're fine. I felt comfortable, and and when I was reading it, it was, especially I have the one role in the hospital scene, and then I have another role as being the almost like the director of the grief group, and
Hmm.
having to respond to each and every person. It was very interesting to me, and it's just a feeling like, wow, like I get to hear all these stories about all these people who are grieving, and how does that make me feel? How it gives me the empathy for them, and it's just a whole like back and forth and listening to them, and it's a great feeling inside. That it's just I'm trying to think of how you can explain. It's just an overwhelming empathy for people. Even if this was just a film, it
Hmm.
still gives you that, you have that inside you that you can just bring out on film. And I think it comes across as, wow. A couple people said to me, "Are you a real doctor?" And I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "But I am in healthcare field." "Oh, you make a great doctor." So that was really nice to hear.
Well, I agree with them. I agree with them.
Thank you. Thank
Was
you.
it filming that you mentioned that like almost by the ending you have that scene and where you have different takes on grief. Like was it like surreal for you and we're like learning that there's so many forms and aspects of grief.
Yes. Yes. And listening to each person had a little monologue to say, one was an infant, one was a wife, I mean, it's just there's so different, many different aspects of grief, and to have them all in one room at one time was really neat. Because as I was learning the script, I printed everybody's picture and put them all on a page, so I knew how I was going to be talking to when we actually did the filming.
Oh, nice.
Because I know some of the actresses that I did work with in the past, and then the other ones were new. So we had seasoned actors and new actors, and it was a great mix. I remember saying to Zay, "Wow, you got a really great mix of actors here because you have people who were just first time film in a film and other ones who have been in filming." So it was really a great mix, and listening to them tell their stories, and just like you said, just it's like, wow, you don't realize there's so many different forms of grief. You just think, well, my so and so passed away, family member, but you don't look at the other forms of grief that's out there. There's so many.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been able to watch the entire film? I know just it was released now on May 25th.
Yes, I was there, and the great thing is that when you're in doing filming, you just film your own scenes. You don't get to see. It's like you have a sneak peek into the
Hmm.
film because you're doing your part. But when you see the whole thing, you're like, oh wow, look at this, because you weren't, some of us weren't there in those parts, and you see the whole thing for the first time with everybody else, and it's pretty neat. And like I said, it's a sneak peek into the entire collaboration of it and how all these people and how they played their part, and you're just thinking, wow, look at this, it just comes together and it's like one nice package.
Yeah,
And it's such a great thing to watch because that day at the theater, I saw it for the first time with everybody else.
yeah.
So yeah, it was really neat.
How's that? Like, what did you think of the movie? Like, first time seeing it, everything put together. Like,
It
any specific thoughts?
I think that the lead characters, I mean, Lisa and Eileen and Zuli, I mean, them on film, it was almost like it wasn't acting, it was like real, and to see the three of them connect was just so amazing. And they did such a great job. I mean, they just enveloped their characters, and it just seemed like, wow, they're not really acting, and it came across that way on screen. I think that's so important.
Hmm.
And kudos to all of them. They're great women to work with. They're empathetic, they're kind, they're professional. They're just really nice people. And it's not like, oh, yeah, I know so and so, I used to work with her. It's like, oh, yeah, I really know her. Because you
Yeah.
see how they bring that out in themselves in this film. And I think that, working with them and doing this it was just great. And I thought, wow, look at this. Like, it's just awesome feeling, even though, I wasn't part of that little group of them,
Hmm.
I just sat back. I was like, wow, look at this. This is great. They should all be proud of themselves because they did such a wonderful job.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
How was like when you first saw yourself on screen? Like, are you one
Mhm.
of those that like started dissecting? Maybe you could do this better or that, or was it like a surreal moment for you? Like, oh my God, wow.
It was more like you said in the beginning. It's more like I'm like, well, I could have looked a little better right there. That looks like that was a little big on me. And I think, how am I coming across on screen like that?
Hmm.
And I think I look more at my appearance than anything, especially in this role, because I feel like it wasn't a hard role to play because of
Hmm.
my background in healthcare.
Hmm.
But I kind of pick myself apart. But
I get it. Yeah.
on one token, it was really nice to see the big screen. But yeah, I kind of look at myself and say, wow, oh, could you have done a better job there?
No, I get it.
So
It happens to me all the time.
yeah, it's like you criticize yourself because sometimes people are hard on themselves,
Hmm.
But I think it gives you room to grow sometimes when you put yourself in that aspect. It's like, if I'm ever here again, I can do that. You know what I mean? So I think for me, that's how I kind of look at things in life. How could I have done that better? I try to grow and try to make things better as I go along in each movie that I play in. That's what I try to do. I try to be better and better. It depends on what role, it doesn't matter. It's
Hmm.
just ways to improve.
No, I
Kind of
get
checking
that.
in with yourself all the time. Yeah.
No, I get that. It happens to me. That same analysis you gave yourself, it happens to me all the
Uh-huh.
time. Behind I'm editing and putting it out there, and like I'm like about to punch myself because it overwhelms me, right? Because I could say this better or do this better. So I get it.
And the thing is that there really isn't any better. It's right now as we're doing it. It's good enough. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
it's good
yeah,
enough, and because it's how it came out. That's how it's meant to be, and I think that's also important to look at that aspect
yeah.
as well. Um, but yeah, it was so much fun. And just watching Frank and Zay, and oh my God, it was just like, and they're so fast. They do everything, and it's professional. It's quick. It's like wow. It's like everything just happens so fast.
Yeah, 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 I get it. Is there anything that resonated with you besides the healthcare experience? Like because I know like Lisa, no, is it Lisa? Lisa had her on the show and she had lost her best friend. And then
Yeah.
I think Zuli, I can't remember exactly what happened. And she was like it reminded when she lost her mom. Like was there any connection there of like I don't know, emotionally reminder of something you went through?
Yeah, I think that I lost my father 2 years ago, and
Oh wow.
that certainly resonated with me. And then the one gentleman who had a relationship with his mother, who was always getting on him about everything all the
Yes.
time, and how he tries to get off the phone in 10 minutes, whether he sets his watch for 10 minutes. And he's like,
Hmm.
I got to go, mom. I didn't have a great relationship with my mother, so I resonated with that character as well. So it's weird, even though it was about grief, I did the grief part and then the relationship part. So I think that, you know, those things kind of trigger you, and they remind you of parts of your own life. And you just try to think about as they're talking. It's like, yeah, I can relate. Um, and I think that's important in anything. You try to relate to somebody, because it means something to you as much as it means to them. Even if it's a film, it still relates inside.
Hmm. Is this was this a first role, a dramatic role for you, or have you done something like this in the past?
I've done things in the past. I've played a lot of dramatic roles. I have a filmmaker. I just finished 2 films with him. One and he said that you play anger roles very well. And so, I was a wife, and I was angry at I couldn't stand him. I just can't stand the husband. It was awful. And it was, he says, that's great. He said, I got another movie coming up. He says, and I got a great role. He says, but you got to be really mean. I said, okay. He said, no, I mean really mean. Can you do? I said, yeah. I said, of course I can. He said, yeah. He said, you play mean roles really well. So I've played those roles, and I played a movie called Familia. And I was a crazy woman, and I wind up shooting 2 people.
Wow.
And that was really cool to do that scene and see myself. I was like, oh my God. And it's so funny. It was so surreal because at the end, the poster for this movie, you just see me standing in a doorway with this light around me, and I'm standing there with the gun in my hand, and I'm thinking, wow, I wonder how he did that. And I'm thinking, And I'm like, wait a minute. It was actually the very end scene of the movie, and I never even knew it. I never knew that I was standing there with the light around me. And that was like, wow. Like
Wow.
knowing that I did this film, and I didn't even see that part. And there I was. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I played mostly dramatic roles. I haven't played any comedy yet. Not yet. I'm open. And the 2 roles I'd still like to play are a homeless person and a nun. And I don't know why, but I still want to play those 2 roles.
That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
what
But
it?
yeah, mostly dramatic. And I played a lot of I've played a couple detective roles, like police officers. I had a
Okay.
film that I did called Black Widows, um, and it was in a theater in North Carolina, because that's where the director's from. We filmed it in Philadelphia, and he used to be from New Jersey, and then he showed it down in the theater down there. Of course, I didn't go back for that, but I have some police background training, so I fit some of those roles as well: detectives, police officer. those kind of roles as well.
Nice, nice. What inspired you to start acting? Like what was that moment and we're like, I want to try this or I want to do this.
I've always wanted to be an actress. And when I was younger, my mother steered me away from it. She said,
Mm.
"What are you going to do? You're going to starve." And I'm thinking, wow, thanks for that support, Mom. Thanks a lot. What are you going to do? You're not going to have any food on the table and all. And I'm like, okay. So that was out of the picture. And as I got older, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do. And I was scared to death because now I'm older and I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? So I knew a friend that did some theater work. He brought me into one of the meetings and all. I was scared to death. So I started in theater. And I went to my first play was up in Cranberry, New Jersey, and it was held at a church.
Wow.
And I auditioned for that. And of course, I didn't get the role. I was scared to death. I'm sure they could tell I was fresh out of the water. They were like, holy smokes. So, and that's how I started in theater. And I find theater to be so difficult and stressful because it's, if you blow your lines, you're done. You have one shot. That's all you've got is one shot. And with filming, sure, you can retake the scene, you can reshoot the scene, but you're so much more calm inside knowing that, oh my God, what if I blow my lines? You don't have that stress on
Mm.
you because you know it can be done again, but time is money and money's time. So you know that in the back of your mind, but I still feel more calm when I'm filming than I do when I'm on in the theater. So I stayed away from the theater roles and that's how I started in filming. So it's been about 11 years.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
I'm glad that I did it. And I would suggest anybody who's ever had a passion to do acting, it doesn't matter how old you are, it just doesn't matter. You got to go out there and do it because you have it within you to do, and you need to do it because life is short. We don't know if we're here tomorrow. And I think it's important for people to realize that, oh, I had to get into it when I was younger. No, you really don't.
Yeah, I agree.
And I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad that I had the courage inside me to do that. So it was a lot of fun. It's been a nice experience for the past 11 years. And hopefully when I retire, I'm gonna keep doing, like agent wise. Right now I work full time, so it's difficult to get, to I can't take off work any day. I feel like it, I'll lose my job.
Hmm.
So after I retire, I want to do full time, just getting role after role after role. I can.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy you took that leap of faith and tried it because you're really good at it.
Yes. And thanks, thank you. I hold close to my heart, like any kind of films about bullying, mental illness, um, disabled, veteran stuff. I hold that close to my heart because I have compassion for that.
Hmm.
Um, and those people and those situations because there's so much of that out there and there's not enough compassion and empathy
Hmm.
for these people. And I love to play those kind of roles because it means something to me inside. And that's what I'd really like to do, those kind of roles.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you 100%. Like, especially like this film, Bombs and Grief. Like I was saying to your colleagues, actors, that like this movie, it's very much needed in the world, but like because it's not a big office, blockbuster, you wouldn't see something like this, uh, in the like big entertainment industry because it's just not, nobody wants to be sad, nobody wants to, be accountable. Everything has to be boom and
Right.
entertaining. But we do need films like this to help, you know, evolve as human being and grieve and grow as well.
It's true. You look at people and you're like, oh, they look fine, but they're not inside. You
Hmm.
know, a lot of illnesses, a lot of mental illness, a lot of these situations that are hard, these emotional things, emotional movies. It's right. We need to bring them out. We need people to look at these more. The world is
Hmm.
crazy. Let's bring out the kind of things that are really going on that are really important. And that's about being there for each other and supporting each other and, learning that, hey, this is what's going on, you know?
I agree. You mentioned that you would like to do comedy, and I'm surprised because Zay he loves doing comedy. So like I'm not sure why he's taking so long.
I know, right? It's like comedy. Comedy's awesome. You need to laugh every day.
Hmm.
Everything is a lot of stress. It's out there in the world, and we need to laugh because it really does feed your soul when you laugh. It's a good time, and your body knows it. It's like, oh, this is great. We need to have more fun.
Hmm.
and stop worrying about, I mean, yeah, you got to worry, but there's so much stress out there that we need to have comedy. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, and I think like
Yeah.
I keep
It's
saying,
important.
yeah, I keep telling people like comedy, if you're like want to be an actor and you're starting off, like comedy is a great way to segue into becoming a more serious actor because like the with a joke you have to have good timing and it develops that
Hmm.
skills. Like you see many actors like God, I can't think of one, but there's actors like Anthony something from Blackish, right? He started doing comedy. You saw him in like in the barber
Yes.
shop and films like that. And then to now see him like I think it was a Law and Order, but in those shows like that are more serious and dark, like there's plenty of actors that started in comedy and that ended up winning a Academy Award for Best Actor. Like if you look at the show
Right.
Jeffrey Dahmer, I'm not sure if
Mhm.
you're familiar with that show, but in the show, Jeffree Dahmer's neighbor, she's a black woman. She was started in comedy. Her career
Wow.
started as a stand-up, and then she does a show like this, and I think she won an Oscar or an Emmy, something like that, and where you could show you how the evolution of an actor, how far they can go.
Right. Yeah, and playing different genres, different roles, and yeah, horror, comedy, drama. There's some mystery. There's so many different roles. And it's nice to see that someone can do all of that
Hmm.
and do it well. I think if people are given a chance, I think they might be able to do that. It's interesting
Hmm.
how, like you said, they start out in comedy, but then they end up in like dramatic roles and stuff.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
um, besides the roles you played in, is there any in particular that besides a nun and a homeless person? Why a nun or a homeless person? I just gotta know.
I don't know, I just look at I feel sorry for homeless people, but a lot of them, that's how they want to be.
Mm,
They want to live that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how they want to be, that's fine. But I wanted to play the kind of homeless person. I was um I'm in the process of writing a film, but I'm slow at it at this point. But it's it's really about, like, homeless. You can learn a lot from a homeless person. If
I
you
agree.
stop and take the
Yes.
time to sit and talk to a homeless person, you can find out so many things you don't know anything about. All you look at them is that they're dirty, they're nasty, and they're begging, and that's all people look at. They don't look at, this is a person.
Hmm.
This is someone who may teach you something.
Hmm.
you know, but they don't take the time to stop and talk to a homeless person. And I think that that's a shame on some aspect. I mean, I'm not saying I've stopped and talked to a homeless person,
Hmm.
but I try to, you know, give them a meal or something like that. But I'd like to play that kind of homeless person where I could teach somebody something, or they can learn something from me and I can learn something from them. I think that would be a really cool thing.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying 100%. Like I have
Yeah.
there's a homeless person where I do food shop, and sometimes I just sit there and talk to
Mhm.
him. Like that man came all the way from Texas. He
Oh
has
my
a
God.
he has the accent and everything. I'm like, what are you doing all the way in New Jersey?
Right?
And not like South Jersey or like you're in North Jersey, like you're like 15 minutes away from New York. Like you're a long way from home. And
Right.
it's like I feel like sometimes homeless people have this thing and we're like there's something wrong with them mentally, but also like they portray to be mentally to not steer into conversation. Like he told me like I can't tell you that, and kept like going his way and like making believe the conversation never happened. So like
Wow.
it's very intriguing how these individuals go about their day in their life and not knowing their story.
Right. Right. Nobody knows about them. Like you said, he's all the way from Texas. Like, what is he
Hmm.
doing here? How did he get here? There's so many things to know about them. And like you said, they're a little evasive. They don't want to let you know.
Hmm.
They could be paranoid that, you're trying to do something to them, or God only knows, but
Yeah.
I can't imagine what must go through their heads every day.
Hmm.
That's awesome though that you stopped and talked to them. That's right. I commend you for that, because nobody takes the time to talk to them. They don't.
I talk to them all the
And I
time.
think that's awesome that you.
People think I'm crazy,
That's
but it's all right.
awesome. No, you know what? You're doing something that you want to do, and that's nice because you care about this person enough to talk to them, and I think that's important. And I think that if people were like that a lot more, I think the world will be a better place.
Yeah, like there's just one I think I want to say his name's called Terrence. He's probably not, but I know it's with a T. So like he every summer he pops up out of nowhere and starts helping everybody with the groceries, right? And he's like, "You have a little
Right.
change." So like me and my wife have a company where we print shirts. They're like, "All right, I'll give you $20 if you just, I'll put them to work. I'll use the manual labor, you know." Um, and then I'll just stay talking to him. It's like, uh, where do you live? And he's like, "Oh, I live in the shelter." Like, oh, that's cool, not trying to be judgmental, have a conversation. He's like, do you have family, whatever? And he's like, yeah, no. I lost a lot to drugs. And then scratches heads and like so like the- it's remarkable what things you can learn. So I kudos to you. I totally get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many things to learn from them, so much. We don't know what their life is about. We have no idea,
Hmm.
and it's like I think that's really cool. And they're probably really good down to earth people, but we wouldn't know that.
Hmm. And
We
then
don't
you
give them the
have
time of day because people just,
yeah,
yeah.
and then you have those that like you can tell there's just action for money just to ask for money. Like there's just one I live like three blocks down to like enter like the turnpike. And there's just one that like you
Hmm.
actually for money, but like you got brand new Jordans on. You got brand new Air Force Ones on. Or first Jordan like these expensive sneakers. Like
Hmm.
how are you telling me if you ain't got no money or you're homeless, but you're rocking these brand new looking like they just came out of the box sneakers, you know?
Yep. That's what I do. I look at their sneakers. I look at their clothes. They'll be walking
Smelling.
around. They'll have a cell phone in their hand. They got new sneakers on. It's like,
Hmm.
okay. And it was in Jersey. Some years back, there was this guy. It came out in the news. This lady every day he would give her money every single day, and then this one day he was doing it for a couple of years, and then this one day he sees her drive off in this red sedan, and he's like, "Wait a minute, what? What?" And he realized she wasn't homeless at all, and he was so angry because for 2 years he was giving her money every single day, just to know that she wasn't really homeless. Oh my God, he was so angry, and I get it. You
He
know,
was living. I
he
mean
was
that
so mad. Oh my God.
yeah.
I think if he knew where she lived, he'd probably go after her. But yeah, it's amazing how like, you don't know, but I don't know. It's just a weird concept of people who just portray this. I mean, I believe in karma and it'll get you.
Hmm. I
It'll
mean,
get you.
yeah, I
Um,
mean that's but I don't know the correct I can't remember the correct terminology it's called, but it's like that and like prostitution is like the two oldest jobs even in the Bible, right? So
yep.
I mean it's remarkable either way because some of them fake until they make it, other ones really have these amazing story. So like, put in God's hand, let him be the judge.
That's right. Absolutely. I agree with you.
Um,
Absolutely.
what about being a nun? Like that's something like I only see people be nun like in movies if it's like a horror.
I don't know. I think that it would be an interesting role to play.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I mean, you know, I'm not an overly religious person,
Hmm.
but um, you know, I believe in a higher power, and I think that the stigmatism behind a nun,
Hmm.
it would be an interesting role to play.
Hmm.
They're supposed to be holier than thou, the whole nine yards. And I think that would just be an interesting character to portray because they're looked upon as they're put up on a pedestal sometimes, and they run the convent and the whole thing. I just think it would be such an interesting role to play. I don't
Hmm.
know why though.
No, but you know what?
Maybe if I ever get a chance to play it, I'll
Yeah,
figure out why.
some of them have also remarkable stories. Like,
Hmm.
I want to say, unless you like been brought up through religion, there's like, oh, I'm gonna be a nun.
Right.
But others like, you remember the movie Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg, which is a great movie.
Yes.
Um, she had a story,
Yes.
right? And some of them had
Yeah.
also other stories. So like I guess what kind of story do you want to give that character? That's intriguing.
Yeah. It's like, it, it's always about the strict, the strict religion, the Bible, like that. And I want it to be more of like a fun-loving nun, who, yeah, I'm religious, but there's other sides of me too. Religion's not my whole life. I'm still a person, and I still have things I'd like to do and things to enjoy myself with. So
Yeah.
I think, like you said, like kind of like Sister Act and Whoopi Goldberg, she was partying, having a good time with everybody, but yet she was still a nun. She still had the religion aspect to her. So kind of like that, a nice even balance.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, like a badass nun. He's like, yeah, I
Yes,
reprimand, but I
absolutely.
party.
That's right. Yep, you got it. That's another one, Zay. He can write that.
Yeah. What's his name?
Or Steve. Steve
Steve.
can write that. Steve Meredith.
Yeah, man. He has a way with words. Like there's a scene in this film, Moms of Grief.
He
Like
does.
he says something like grief is just love with no place to go. That like hit me in the heart. Then there's another one where like
Yes.
he's trying to like say grief is like a ball put in a box and the bigger it is, like something touches the edges, that's what makes you cry. And it
Yes.
keeps going until it becomes smaller. So like it definitely has a way with words. Shout out to him.
Yes. Like I can't imagine what goes on in his mind to be able to write these stories and like come up with these phrases that really can touch you, like you said, and it's like, oh wow, that's a great line, but it means something. It really does mean something.
Hmm.
And I love that whole box thing, and as time goes on, the ball gets smaller and smaller, and it doesn't hit the sides as much. And I think that's a great analogy to grief and how people handle grief. Some people don't know how to grieve. Some people say, oh, well, yeah, I know you hear me talking about it all the time. And my aspect is, my outlook is, you know, there's no time limit on grief. If you're still grieving 10 years from now, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's an individual, everybody's a different person, and they deal with grief in their own way. And one way is not better than another. And there's no time limit. And I think that we need to have compassion for those people who are grieving and realize, it could be for loss of a dog, it could be a loss of a family member, it could be loss of a job, it could be anything. And I think people need to have that space where they can deal with those things on their own and not have people judge them, because it's hard. Grief is hard. There's so many stages of grief that people
Yes.
have to go through.
Yes, I agree.
And yeah.
And there's so many different types of grief as well, like things
Hmm.
that you would never imagine. Grieving, a wife that you thought loved you, but had a mistress. You know,
Right.
I love her, your dog that's no longer here. So like it's I'm just spitballing, but there's so many forms of grief. Like in the movie, there was this wife who was grieving for the touch of her husband. So like it,
Hmm.
it's it's amazing when you come to think of it.
Yeah. And it's not, sometimes it's not always about death.
Hmm.
Grief is not just about death. It's about like situations. It's about jobs. It's about, someone who was fine. There are sports. They play sports and then they have so many concussions and wind up getting a brain injury.
Hmm.
And they think, wow, I used to be able to do that. And now I can't think like that anymore because now my brain's kind of damaged from all these concussions from playing sports, something I love. And now and that person grieves internally about how they used to be. Well, I can't remember things anymore. It's got to be frustrating. And there's just so many different aspects. I mean, we probably make pages of it, when you really start thinking about it. It's not just about death. I think people just assimilate grief as death, and it's not.
Hmm. I agree. I
It
agree.
definitely
So
is not. Yeah.
it's definitely connected to something you love.
Hmm.
Because
Yes.
somebody, a woman who loves her husband and her husband has a job, has to constantly travel and is never home. You're missing. It's symbolize something
Right.
that's missing that's supposed to be a part of you.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people say, well, I'm moving on from the grief. You're not really moving on. You're moving forward. Sometimes
Hmm.
they get that stigma. Moving on means that you're forgetting about them. No, no, no. You're just moving forward. They're still there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you're always gonna, I think my grandmother, my one who raised me, like she passed away 2 years ago, and there's certain times that where I remember and it makes me emotional, but like it's, you still move on. The burden, that burden of a
Mhm.
sadness, slowly but surely it starts to lift up, and you just go about it's like almost until it becomes norm. Your day becomes
Right.
normal where you're like you have that person there and it's no longer there. You just got to keep going.
Right. You can't stop your life, unfortunately, because if you stop, then, your whole life is going to fall to heck. But you never forget them. And, things will come up in a conversation or whatever, and you'll be like, oh, yeah. And then you get sad. And I think that's how we just deal with that sadness and that remembrance and how, wow, I wish that person was still here. But, and you allow yourself some time to think, and then you kind of just continue, like you said, it's the norm. You'll have these little aspects that'll come up, and then it's like, all right, I just got to keep moving.
Yeah,
And we need to allow ourselves to do that because I think that's part of growing from anything loss. You know, it's we deserve that time.
hmm I have a friend who's going through something, and I told him like you just got to go through it. You got to go through it. A lot of people try to avoid it and not uh and not how to not be stuck in that place. But sometimes in order for you to overcome that place, you got to go through that place. You got to go through it. You got to, I don't know, it's how like five forms of stages of overcoming grief. Like you have to go through it to come out of that darkness. If you don't go through it, it's pending. It's just pending.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it is. And it's hard, and support systems are great. We need support systems. We need people who care, you know what I mean? Some people who we can depend on to help us get through those stages.
Yeah.
That's
And
important. It's very important to have a support group, whether
yeah.
it's your friends, your family, or people in a grief group that you don't even know. There's you have to have some form of support.
Yeah. You have to. And like I said, you have to go through because as the years progress, the more you hold it in, it's like it starts to steam away through your pores, and you start to lash out, and
Hmm.
you say things and do things you're not supposed to because you're going through your body's telling you to go through something, and you're trying to ignore it. And sometimes the answer is not ignoring it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could be angry when you could be angry. You go through that anger stage. That's tough, because you need to get it out, but you have to be careful where you're letting it out at. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
To hurt other people. But you have to, like you said, you have to go through that. It's just you have to. You don't have a choice. Because it's
Hmm.
eventually going to come out, and you don't want it to come out in the wrong way. So you just have to allow yourself to go through those stages.
I agree.
And it's a
Was there
shame.
was there anything that this movie, this film helped you learn, just learning grief in general?
Yeah, I think it reminded me about how many forms of grief that there really are out there. Doing this movie and listening to everybody's story, it kind of like kind of reignited knowledge within me that, hey, yeah, that's right, it's not just about dying. There's other forms of grief out there,
Hmm.
and how can we best help people with that, and that's through the support, through the conversations, opening yourself up, because once you share your stories of loss, then you're opening yourself up to healing. And I think that's where it begins, is trying to get yourself to talk about it. And I think that's where it starts. And we create that opening for communication, for empathy, compassion from other people. And I think that's what reminded me about all that, is that here are all these people in this grief group, and they're like, they're talking about what their grief is, what kind of grief they're going through. So, and I think that's what it reminds me of, like, wow, yeah, that's right, there's all these different situations out there.
Hmm.
And I thought that was a good part for my character, that I learned, that she was trying to be there for everybody and listen. um, so that's really cool. That was nice.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Is there any project you're going to release soon that you have pending that you want anybody to know about?
Yeah, there's a movie called Ashes at East Point. There's a trailer out for it right now. The trailer is completely awesome. Oh my God, it's a great trailer. Again, I didn't see all the other parts to the movie, so I would be seeing it at the same time everybody else would. But they're looking at streaming services for it right now. I just got a message last week about it. So that's a great movie to see, Ashes at East Point. And I think that I just did a short film called Typing. That's out in the festivals right now. And they're the only two I have right now. But yeah.
All right, boom.
Definitely.
Go check them out.
All right.
If you had one thing to tell somebody to watch this film, what would that be? Why should they watch this film?
Because I think it's a great message that people need to see on screen. They need to see the message of grief and how we, as a person, as a community, can be a part of someone's life to help them through grief and to be able to have that compassion and be there for people, because I think that's important. And I think if they watch this movie, that's what they're going to see. They're going to see, wow, look at all this, look at the support group, look at all these people, look at this connection. Once, like I said, once you open yourself up by telling your story, I think it means so much, and I think it would teach people a lot of things.
I agree. 100% I agree. But also like what I like about this film is like you never know what other people are going through. And understand
Exactly.
that you're not the only one that's going through something as well, that we all have our own conundrums and heartbreaking incidents or moments and where we go through things.
That's right. Absolutely. You don't, people look like, oh, everything's okay, but we all know in real life, everything's not okay. There's always
Yeah.
something going on in somebody's life. And it's
Yeah.
about taking the time to get to know that person and having them feel comfortable enough to talk to you. And that's how I think it starts. And I think it's important. Really, it really is an important message for people.
Yeah. I think that's why I enjoy this movie because it felt like real life. It wasn't a cinematic, one of these movies released in with a big budget and where you have the filter on it. Like it felt real. Like it
Yeah.
felt like something like that just happened last week, you know? Like
Right. Right. Yeah.
so
It's
that
true. It felt real. Absolutely. It didn't feel staged or perfect or,
mhm.
how Hollywood has it. Like everything's got to be perfect. You got to put $1 million into all the
Yeah,
effects and
yeah.
stuff. No, this is a great movie. And I think it's, like you said, it means a lot, and it's put together well. And
Hmm. No,
yeah,
especially your role and we're like that the doctor and we're like you see that because there are doctors that have relationship with families. They'll tell you I brought into this life his daughter. Like relationships, and we're like
right.
I've I've witnessed moments like that, and we're like, hey, you got to know this. And when the
Hmm.
person's like shocked, looking at you like you have three heads, not knowing what do you mean. Like I've witnessed moments like that in real life, in my life. So like and like you said earlier, the connection between Lisa and Eileen and Judy, like I felt that like that that wasn't acting, that was real life.
Yep. And I think when she told Zuli that, hey, you know what, I got to tell you this because your mother didn't, and she should have told you by now, because it's not just about the mother, it's about your daughter you're leaving behind. Like, she's got to, like, and I was a family friend, and it's like, I got to tell you this because, like, you got to make some important decisions, like,
Hmm.
soon. And the fact that, her mom didn't tell her, it's like somebody's got to tell her.
Hmm.
It's nice that as the doctor, I had that family connection where I could just let her know,
Hmm.
hey, this is what's going on here. So it was interesting. There's a lot of different little connections here and there, in everybody's character. And I think it was well written, definitely well written, and,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
well, and yeah, it really was.
I
But yeah, it was a
think
great role. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think if your part wasn't in there, because I feel like everyone has a good part, but your part is the most important one because through your message, like everything is revealed. Like I feel like if your part wasn't there,
Mhm.
like Zuli's character, her pain would have been even more worse. Because imagine one day you just find your mother just dead, and then after she passes away
Yep.
you start to find out she's going through all these things and you knew nothing about it. Like that would be worse.
Right. And by Dr. Johnson telling her, she actually had a chance when she said, Mom, what do you like to do while you're still here? What do you want to do from here on?
Yeah.
And it's like they actually got a chance to communicate and say, hey, Mom, instead of finding her dead,
We'll talk
what can
about
we
it.
do
Yeah.
to make your last days wonderful? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been an honor speaking with you. I'm
Yes.
looking
Thank
forward
you. I enjoyed my
to
time.
I'm looking forward to your future projects coming out. I'm looking for, and hope
Thank you.
to one day see you and either as a homeless or a nun, see how that
Right.
story unravels. So, good luck to you. And before we go,
Thank you.
please tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at DTighe5, DTIGHE5, and I'm on Facebook at Debbie, DEBBY, and TIGHE.
Boom, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Go follow her, go support her, go check out her brand new films, the upcoming and the past one. Go check out this film right now, Bonds of Grief, out now on, is it on YouTube, Junito Studio?
I'm not sure where it's going to be coming to yet. That they didn't release that yet. I'm not really sure. Um, there was talks of maybe Apple Plus. I'm not sure. Unless it was in today's thing and I didn't get to it yet.
Well, I think for now, go check. It's on Junito Studios. Uh, like and subscribe his YouTube channel.
You got it.
Make sure you support her and you follow her. This amazing talent. Make sure to go follow me on Instagram, Mr.Dreams5Obtain. Go like and subscribe our YouTube channel to support all these major actresses like her. That is Deal Talk TV. Go follow me on Facebook, Deal Mark King Diaz. All the episodes are being uploaded there. And have a good night, guys. I'm out.